Hello, everyone. I'm Professor Geek. Welcome back to the channel. Yeah, just a second, Alyssa. She'll be here in probably about 15 minutes. She's ready to go have a jazz show with Sound Engraver, as she calls it. So, all right, you did that. We're good. Yeah, welcome everybody. We've got a little crowd here, which is nice to see. uh, we we will see how it goes tonight. I have been crazy busy with all the wedding prep and stuff like that lately, and I reread the chapters last weekend, and then today I sat down at least a little bit, kind of marked some places, to point out and everything. But I don't know. We'll see how it goes. If I miss some stuff, I miss some stuff. But that brings me to maybe having a co-host occasionally can fill in some things, other than you ask him a question and he goes, you put me on the spot on that one. Welcome, Mr. Darth Sever.
Can you feel the force choke coming through the internet?
How are you, sir?
I am doing all right, hanging in there.
Good. Got a good week and everything?
Yes, it's been a nice, quiet week, and decided to do a little door dashing tonight. Had a little Chinese for dinner.
Nice. They gave you the right thing, though, right?
Oh, yes. Oh, God forbid.
I remember that time Al and I were chatting one evening just via Messenger, and he was just so mad. And
I was livid.
They ordered Chinese and they sent him the wrong dish, and he's just like, "The world's crap."
It's not okay. It's not just that it was the wrong dish. It was my least favorite of all the dishes. If they had accidentally sent me sweet and sour chicken, okay. Some mushu pork, I'll deal with it. They sent me that kung pao crap.
Yeah, I get that though. I get that. Nothing's worse than like craving some food. You paid for it for, and then like, oh, here's the wrong thing. Like,
craving General Tso's and I get kung pao.
Well, welcome everybody to the chat who's there with us. So we had Ghost Planet Max Inc. 1.0, Nathaniel Zalozball. Eldritch fan actually left us a super chat. Thanks for that. Says, this is interesting. Dale reminded me of C.S. Lewis's Unman in Paralandra. Oh. That is a great comparison. Really is. We're going to talk about that when we get to in these chapters tonight. What does it mean to be close to the Force? It's interesting. It's interesting. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's a good comparison. We'll mention that.
I've never read that book, so is that one of the space trilogy that you've been talking about possibly doing one day?
Yeah, it's book 2 in the space trilogy, and it's really quite good. Yeah, we'll definitely do it at some point, one of these days. All right, so in chapter 10, we left off with Lannery and Tree in the present time. We're off. They run down to this one planet. They went into a temple, crashed the ship into the temple, and they left a bomb for them. But they did escape, and they found out this communications device, which they were able to track to this other planet where they're looking at now. This is a planet that's pretty rough, Tree said, but he's had dealings there, and he's kind of leading them around. He said there's this one contact that I can put us in touch with, but he's awful. Don't judge me by him. He's the worst of the worst, and that was what they were going to do. So they were going to set up this meeting with this contact.
And not to mention a tipping point for me as to how I feel about Lannery with the whole. Let me sear the guy's memory out of his brain. Oh, yeah. It might work. Might leave him a vegetable for the rest of his life.
Yeah, we got some, but in her mind, it's like better than killing him. And Tree's like, she say so.
Well,
yeah. In about 15 minutes, she'll be here, and you can go have a show. Don't knock over the lamp. Why don't you put that table on the floor since you're. Alyssa, put your princess bag on the floor before you stuff it and knock over everything on the table. There you go. Good job. Oh, boy.
Like your bat can, by the way.
Oh, yeah. My little Bat koozie. It's classic Silver Age Batman.
Yeah,
they changed the this is the new Diet Pepsi cans too, which is kind of cool. It looks just like classic Pepsi, but then on the bottom it says Diet. But I kind of like the retro look of it. It's pretty cool.
Man, they must have messed Diet Dr. Pepper up for you to like just totally abandon it.
Yeah, screw Diet Dr. Pepper. I could care less about it. Every now and then I'll check to see if they go back, but they change the flavor and it's awful. It tastes disgusting. It's like mud water now, and it's like what? I think if they were trying to save money on like not making it not so sweet anymore or something, save some sweetener. I don't know what they did, but it's nasty.
I thought it was the sweet one.
It was. That's a laughable slogan if they ever try that again, because it's certainly not in any way the sweet one. Yeah, I don't know. Don't pick at old wounds, man.
Hey, I had to get the Food Lion Mountain Lion.
Oh yeah, nice.
Yeah, stuff was on sale.
So we open chapter 11 with a flashback. This is when her and Dale, remember they just left the temple that was more about combat, and we saw some of Dale and Lannery shenanigans there and whatnot. And they're on their way. They're traveling through this wilderness part to get to this next temple. Anil Kesh is the name of the temple. But on the way there, they're hunting, and Lannery drives this beast with the Force over to Dale, where Dale can slaughter it, so they can eat that night. And Lannery's talking about how they actually did we make a good team, she thinks. But then that familiar pang of guilt stabs in once again. They are 6 days out from Stavkesh. I'm sorry, Stavkesh, not Anil Kesh. In every moment that passes, Lannery knows she is lying to herself. Dale will never accept the Force, nor adjust to its ebb and flow. And they have this little talk. Eventually, they're eating, and she says, "Are you sad?" she asks again. "The way you were at Stavkesh, like a child, jealous of those around him with better toys," which is really naive and condescending to say. And Dale raises an eyebrow and then laughs out loud. "Is that what you think?" he asks. "Well, you really think I'm jealous of you, of Mother and Father, and those we trained with back there? Jealous that none of you are your own masters?" "Of course we are," Lannery says. "No." He places his plate down and stands, not angry, but frustrated. "No, not at all. You're slaves to the Force. You might think it serves you, but you serve it. You never have your own thoughts, because the Force is always on your mind. You never fight with your own fights, because the Force fights for you." Hello. Looking so beautiful. Senator gets home from a day of work and she just looks gorgeous. Wow. Well, that's what I see, Dale says. Or Lannery says, "It's not like that, Dale." Dale, "Well, that's what I see," Dale says. "I watch you use it. And when you do, you're not yourself. You're not my master. Or you're not my sister," he says. "I thought I knew what was best for you," she says. "But you don't. Only I can say that. Our parents, you, the masters who trained us, everyone wants to tell me what to be, to force something on me. But I'm my own man, my own master." Yeah, you can take that. It's fine. So he's got, they talk a little bit more, and he says, "I'm going to learn everything I can from every temple we both visit. And then after that, I'm going to the stars." "The stars," she says. He says, "I'm going to find my way home." He says no more. Now, everything he says there honestly sounds pretty legitimate,
I guess it's very reasonable. He wants to be his own man.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to use any tricks or, quote unquote magic or whatever in his life. He wants, when he was like, he enjoyed gutting that animal and cooking it. He's
Michelle might have it.
He's almost like he's old fashioned.
Yeah.
He wants to be his own man. He wants to build. He wants, and he doesn't want.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. He's just a different mindset.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's, he has, I knew she was going to do that. Oh, you got it. You okay?
Yeah.
All right. Good. Alyssa goes out my sliding glass door. She never shuts it right, and she slams it, and it bounces open like an inch. And I was like salamanders in my place and everything, or skinks, and like, But Senator came back in to shut it. Yeah, so he has the Force wrong. He doesn't know, he's got the Force wrong definitely, but he doesn't have it wrong the way they're pushing it on him. I mean, they really, imagine Han Solo growing up in this kind of world where everybody's like, the Force or nothing. You're something wrong with you if you don't have the Force, you know? And so, yeah, it's he's 100%. He's like, I want to be my own man. Let me make my own choices. Let me decide who I want to be. All of that's completely legitimate, you know, and you really kind of sympathize with him, and you're more on his side at this point. Now we'll see where he goes and takes that, but so far, you know, like, yeah, right on, Dale. You know, shut up, Lannery.
Yeah, I mean, and you mentioned Han Solo. I mean, he very much. There's that one line that Han Solo used in the first movie that describes Dale. He's like, it's like ancient religions and all this other stuff is no, it's no replacement for a good blaster at your side or something like that. I can't remember the exact line, but that just happens to be how he views it. Now, question: Dale, he has absolutely no Force ability, right?
Well, we're still learning. We're still finding out things.
That's what I was wondering. I'm just like, I mean, because he comes from a Force-sensitive family.
He does, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be Force-sensitive.
Doesn't mean, it doesn't mean it. But I was just wondering if in his childhood, if they've ever, you know, if he ever made a rock move or a broom fly to him.
You know, I don't know exactly a broom fly to him. I don't know I don't think so. I think it was always like he's going to be a late bloomer, like, you know,
right.
And they're thinking he's just resisting, but it's not because he doesn't have the abilities. But I have to go back and read those original scenes again.
Yeah, I was trying to remember because I don't know of any point that he's tuned into the Force or anything like that.
Yeah. They are, though. You do see him growing up a bit on this journey. They cross these waters. They have a chance to maybe go alone or to go with some help or a guide, but they decide to do it separately. And Dale's just kind of very confident. He's like, "Don't worry, little sis. I'll protect you," even though he's the younger one. And you do kind of see him growing in confidence and growing a bit as they make this journey. Man, definitely.
He says, "We go alone." Dale says, "Hey, Lannery. We're journeying to learn and explore after all."
Yeah. And he's using his blaster, you know, and he's just you going about life the way he would. They're going to get to this temple of science. Storms trash about, heavy rains. The Force storm makes her feel sick and unsteady, and Dale grabs her arm and helps her along. There's a new purpose in him now, and Lannery only wishes she knew what drove it. The Temple of Science is still 2 days travel inland. So they're getting close on this temple. And it says that it's not the last temple on the journey, but somehow she senses that there's an ending coming. You know, there's something about this temple, so we know that.
Do you think he had this plan all along?
It almost seems like it, doesn't he?
It seems like he wanted to find out about this device. Mm-hmm. And Temple of Science makes perfect sense that would be the place that might have information on it.
Yeah. Or I don't know if he knows all of the technology to have the whole plan of trying to find the hypergate and everything. I wouldn't really think that he had that as a child yet, but he does have the general idea, like, I want to get home.
I want to get out of here. Yeah.
Yeah. So then we jump back to the present, and we we have Tree and Lannery about to go meet this guy, this Max Hagen, this guy that their Tree has said.
I like this guy.
You like him?
I like this guy for some reason.
Tree says the reason he can help is because he has this like network with the Hollows, network with people or whatever, but he's got this network where he can just find out things, you know, and people pay him to use this network and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. And he sells darn fine glass of water.
Yeah, that's his cover is this business where he imports pure water to this, planet. Tree says Max Hagen isn't someone to fool with. He's a real deal, a maniac, a monster. All right, so when they finally meet him, where is it? Yeah, okay, so she's talking to him there, and he recognizes Tree immediately, even though Tree's never been on the planet. He has had dealings there, and Max Hagen recognizes him. And he says, I'm her guide, or she says he's my guide. We're looking for somebody. And Max Hagen glanced back and forth between them, and never once did his smile slip, not even from his eyes. He scratched at the corner of his mouth, and Lannery tensed, hand drifting a little closer to the sword hidden beneath her robe. She probed at him gently, but before she'd even touched his mind, she flinched back. His thoughts were such a pit of filth that she could almost taste their rot. And he feels it. He's Jedi, Max Hagen whispered. He feels her. And so Lannery asked again. Tree was frozen at her side. Don't see many Jedi here. The wall he'd thrown up. All right, so then he sensed her instantly. Ready this time, Lannery reached out to read him, but he was closed to her now. The wall he'd thrown up was solid and vast, and it had the feel of something enhanced. He had tech implanted somewhere in his skull, under one of those tufts of hair, no doubt, and it was a top-grade stuff, high and military. His protection went far deeper than just bodyguards. Now, we're seeing a real theme in the book at this point, then. One of it is Lannery's desperate need to probe into people's innermost thoughts, but also the mystery of people who are close to her. She can't abide mystery, right? She's got to know it all, and if there's something close to her, then that's dangerous, right? Tree, she doesn't quite know if he's dangerous or not. She's starting to get a little hint of, there's something more to him than there should be, but Master Dan Powell said that he was dangerous, because he's close to her. Dale had always been close to her, and the more she realizes, in the flashbacks, that he's not going to accept the Force, the more she realizes that's kind of dangerous, So it's like needing to control it all, or else it's dangerous to me. Max Hagen says they agreed to talk. She does say that she's looking. She just says she's looking for her brother. She doesn't mention anything about the Jedi mission or anything like that. But he's running with these stargazers and whatnot. And Max Hagen says he'll do his best. He's a little hesitant at first because he doesn't want it getting out that he used his network to help a Jedi, because then it would look bad for him. Might drive off business.
Yeah, his business would suffer.
Yeah. But they finally, they're going to meet that later that night once he kind of looks around and checks the network and everything. But they're walking away, and Lannery says, "I need a shower. I want to change my skin, buy new clothes. That man's a disease. I did warn you." So, he's a.
I like him.
I think we learned a little bit too. Tree had said that one of the reasons he gave for Max Hagen being so loathsome is that he was in business. There was this Twillick family, I think, that had this deal with him, and they cheated him on the deal, like took his winnings and like went to another world or whatever. And he didn't go crazy and go after them. He just let it lie. And then eventually when he saw his moment, he got revenge. Like he slaughtered them all, but didn't make it known. It wasn't even like for the reason, like, you see what happens when people double cross me. It wasn't. It was like purely emotional revenge that he sated, and then he was fine. Like he was. So it's like it's real evil, but it's Apollonian evil. It's really logical. It's not from the passions. It's like cold blooded.
Yeah, he took his time, waited. And just when it seemed like it would be the greatest effect, it happened, and then it was done, and he went off and sold some good wire.
And that's the greatest. That's like the antithesis to what Lannery is. Lannery's all about feeling and probing the senses and what are people feeling and stuff like that.
She acts on her emotions a lot.
Yeah. So it makes sense why he would just be loathsome to her.
Yeah, but he's not a handsome fella, so I'm sure that's kind of off-putting as well.
Yeah, that too. And then his vile, loathsome thoughts, filthy thoughts, like picturing her naked and all kinds of things.
But it's interesting, a guy that filthy and dirty sells pure water. And is proud that he sells pure water and would not, and would feel bad if it wasn't the best.
Yeah. Tree calls that the perfect cover.
That's what I kind of liked about him.
The irony.
It was like dripping in irony, man.
Then at the end of the chapter here, Tree opens up and we get a little bit of his backstory, which is really interesting because they're just kind of waiting, they're drinking, and he talks about how growing up he has 3 Leku, not just 2, and he said that really set him apart, made people make fun of him and such. It got to the point where he says the path of violence. I killed my first man when I was 17. A street fight outside a tavern on one of Calamar's less salubrious islands. No one cared that he was dead, and after a day, neither did I. It had helped me. His mocking, his violence against me were washed away. He looked down at his palms as he walked, by his blood on my hands. And Lannery said, killing should never be easy. But it was. And I came away really good at it. Defending my honor. I discovered that I was a fighter. Others soon noticed. I slipped into crime. There was always a part of me that resisted, but the rewards easily helped me fight back. I drove down the doubt and embraced the new worlds opening up to me. So he becomes this like bit of a crime lord there on this little place of Calamar. But soon enough, this is Lannery says, "You don't look like a crime lord," Lannery said. "You don't seem like one now." "Now I'm not. Like I said, I made my name in violence. Once that name was made, and I moved my operations to Shikawa, I became one of many. I was lost." So it's kind of like Tree doesn't do violence because he loves it. He's not a violent person by nature. He embraced it for what it needed to be. And once he made his name in it, he's still capable of it. And he's still absolutely capable of it. It's like a shadow self that he kind of, embraced, but he didn't lose himself to it. Once he went into to Shikawa, this bigger place, he became just, he was trying to still flex as though he's a big crime lord, but there were really big crime lords there. They were like Max Hagens and people
He's a little fish.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Good way of putting it. And they, the gangsters there just took out his whole, business, slaughtered all the people that worked for him, but they saw something useful in him. So they allowed him to be kind of a runner for them, sort of a secret keeper, a message giver, that kind of thing. Because he was good at it, he was resourceful and whatnot. He could get around. And if any of these secrets ever got out, though, he's like a horrible death awaits him, which is why Master Dan Powell, part of his deal that he made with her was her closing him to the Force so that no Jedi could come along and pluck secrets from his mind, and get him into trouble that way. But more than that, he said so Lannery said, "Is that what she promised you?" And Tree says, "It's a small part of what she promised." Tree said, his voice dropping, "Because I want my life back. The gangsters haven't called on me for almost a whole Tythian year, but they will soon. I don't want it anymore. I want everything that Dan Powell promised, a new identity, new face, new home, and to forget everything I've done." He laughed softly, touching at his third leku. "Surgery. I want to fade into the crowd instead of stand out. I want to be normal." And Dale thinks, she'll never be normal, not after what you've seen and done. And Lannery should know. But she said nothing to shatter his dreams. While he still dreamed he could help her. She felt sorry for him, but she also recognized that a wish to leave such a life did not absolve him of the guilt he had earned. He told her only a small part of what he had done. His red skin was stained with blood, though of how many victims she would have never known. "After this, Dan Powell will set me free," he said. He seemed confident, so sure. "She's a master of her word," Lannery said, "and she gave me large part of what I am, too." Tree raised an eyebrow, and his leku formed this questioning touch. But Lannery said no more. He might have opened his heart, but her story was not one to share with someone like Tree Sana. Lannery nodded at the door. Lannery is such a filthy
kind of
little
full of herself.
She's just horrible. She's a horrible person.
I'm too good to let you know about me.
Well, as soon as she realizes that there's more to him, in the last chapters from last week than she would, than she would have guessed, suddenly, oh, he's intriguing. Oh, let me be a little nicer to him. Oh, I've got his story now. Yeah, no, he's beneath me. Yeah. She's all about craving mystery,
But she's also starting to be able to. He may be closed off to the Force, but it's like she's starting to be able to read his body.
She's gotten to know him. Yeah, she reads his leku language.
His leku kind of gives him away of the nervousness, or there's something going on there.
Definitely. But let's just pay attention to the themes here again with the being closed off in the Force. In the flashback, she's with her real brother Dale, who just doesn't use the Force and hates her probing into his mind. And now she's with another sort of surrogate younger brother, at least in the terms of this mission, who is close to her. And so we see a similar kind of push and pull, or a similar, it's really an interesting setup narratively, because Lannery is a different person. Older Lannery is different than younger Lannery. That's true. But she's also still the same character. She's still dealing with the same things. And you see how she acted towards Dale, and now you see how she's acting towards Tree. It gauges how much she's changed, but also how much she hasn't changed. So it's interesting. Little setup there. It brings us to chapter 12.
Chasm.
Yeah. They're on their way to Anil Cache, this final temple. And this final temple, it's kind of a cool setup. It's a temple set on this mountain rift. And if you imagine, this cliff, this rift in the mountains, and it's called the chasm, and they don't even know how deep it goes. Legends are it's bottomless. So they've actually got a constant beam that's just shooting into this chasm to try to fathom its risk. There's dark force energy that comes out of this chasm, and it's very mysterious. They're trying to study it. So they've set up this temple on either, it's got like feet coming down on either side of the chasm. So the temple itself is perched right above the chasm. So it's, it's kind of a creepy place to be. But it's all these structures around it, and the Thoyor that brought them there is just kind of circling around it. And as they're coming close to it, Dale says, "I am the chasm." His voice is lower than before, deeper, as if echoing from somewhere deep. "What do you mean?" She sounds like a scared little girl. She is scared. Dale shifts, turning toward the fire so its light reveals his face. He's still her brother, but he looks older than before, wiser. And if she is seeing a Dale who has already completed his great journey, "I have depths waiting to be filled, places you can never see and go because you're Jedi, and my depths are my own, not stared by something else." And eventually later on he says, "I am the chasm. I have depths to explore and fill." And that's interesting because I want to talk about that a little bit. That's a natural thing for any human to realize as they're growing up, that there's more, there are possibilities. Every person, when he comes of age or her age, has to realize that there's more possibilities within them than their upbringing has allowed them to believe thus far, right? Everybody's capable of terrible and great evil. "Oh, no, you're not me. I'm a good person." You're capable of it. You have to fight all the time to be the kind of person that you think you should be, whether that's
human nature.
Yeah, human nature, whether that's shaped by religion or shaped by, whatever principles you were brought up with and so forth. Now, Dale is somebody who has completely turned his back on and doesn't believe in any of the principles he was brought up with. So now he's just a rudderless ship going into these chasms of his ability and potentials and possibilities and so forth. So it's terrifying. It doesn't have to come out badly, if he navigates it the right way, but we'll see what happens. But it's a very human thing to do too, even though we're talking about a story with Jedi and the Force and all this kind of stuff. This is how you write. When people say for writers, write what you know. And one of the pithy little comebacks people often goes, "Okay, so I'm not gonna write fantasy. I know dragons. I have to make this stuff up. I can't just write what I know." No, you better write what you know. Even if you're writing about dragons or dwarves or science spaceships or whatever, if you're not writing what you know in the context of those fantastical or science fictional elements, then you're writing crap. You need to be real, psychologically and emotionally real with your characters, even if it's in a completely fictional and outlandish setting like this, So it's just a good little setup there.
Yeah. Were you going to touch on the last sentence in that paragraph, which I think is pretty powerful one?
Oh, good. Yeah. Do you want to read it, or do you want me to?
I'll read it.
Yeah.
"My own great journey ends soon," he says, "after I've taken everything I can from Tython, bled it of everything that can be of use. I'll be leaving. Don't get in my way."
Kind of ominous right there.
I know, it was very ominous. But like say he's going to learn everything he can, and then I am out of here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's. I mean, he's telling her. He's not making any secret of it.
Mm-hmm.
So they end up approaching. They get to Anil Cache, and this is at the end of this little section. They get there. They have all these orientations because, again, the chasm has so much dark energy coming from it that it makes them kind of sick to be, if they're new to it. So there's like orientations of how for the Jedi how to focus there and whatnot. And it says to manage her that sickness she knows will be one of her first lessons at Anil Cache. That is not the final destination of their great journey, but Lannery cannot help sensing that an ending is hanging over them both. So again, you've got that, sense that this is the last place they're visiting together, no matter what.
Definitely you feel that chasms would come into play.
Mm-hmm. It's a really fascinating setup, this temple over this chasm and this energy coming forth. It's freaky. It definitely is.
Yeah. I know it's like probably a million times more powerful, but kind of reminded me of the tree on Dagobah, the dark that
yeah
had the dark energy in it.
Yeah, because of Jeru Sabaoth's clone and everything. Yeah. All right, so we jump the end of the present, and they go to meet Max Hagen. And I'm not going to say much about this meeting. You can jump any details if I miss them. But basically, Max Hagen's playing a little bit, trying to get some more information out of them. Doesn't want her to kill anybody or whatever. She's like, well, I can't make that promise. Depends on how this goes and so forth. But she ends up actually kind of threatening him a little bit. They paid him the money, and she wants she wants the information they paid him for. And it's a tense scene. It doesn't end up into a fight, and Max has his bodyguards, all around and stuff like that. But it's she actually threatens him a little bit, and they do find out where Dale is.
Well, she basically, she affirms that she's threatening him.
Yeah, he's like, "Are you threatening me?" She goes, "Yes."
Yes.
Yep. And they find out that Dale is this place. What was it called? The Pan something. It's in one of these Greenwood Station. Pan Deep, Greenwood Station. Basically, it's sort of a tower that was just kind of left unquestioned or kind of left off to the side, sort of forgotten after the war, because the war between the Jedi and the Uprisers and whatnot destroyed a lot of that place, destroyed a lot of Greenwood Station. But there's this little tower left that's close enough to still have all of the technological sort of amenities, but it's off to the side enough to where it's just sort of forgotten. And that's where Dale is set up his hideout for. So they're on the approach to it. They take the ship there, and once they finally get there, District 4, the place is so polluted that they have to wear suits just to step out. They get there.
And literally, I was kind of like gagging a little bit. I was like imagining this place.
Yeah. Tree said, "You take me to the nicest places." Yeah, rainwater already stinking with pollutants was used to flush, and now they could see the resultant rain of showering down the high ceiling. Countless pipes and gullies led there. Their stinking contents failed to the darkness. So it's just like this.
Yeah, they used the word shack there instead of something else, I'm assuming.
Yeah, shack is a Star Wars euphemism. Yeah,
yeah,
another SH word. Yeah. So they're in their suits and whatnot. They're on the approach. They enter into this Pan Deep area, and they do see some guards. And Lannery is taking care of business. She won't, she's taking out some of these guards, dealing with Tree there. And again, if I'm skipping too much, if you want to bring up anything, feel free. But I want to get to the end of the chapter because they finally get to this room. Through another doorway, then there was a room. Behind her, Tree gasped. The room was large. Its walls were smooth, their lines clean. The ceiling and floor were white, like nothing they had previously seen on Nox. It resembled more the interior of a luxury spacecraft than a subterranean manufacturing base. At its center stood a wide table upon which rested an object swathed in a loose white sheet. Scattered across the table were instruments and components, and around the room were several wheeled cabinets, home to more tools, parts, and obscure technology. It was more like an operating theater than a laboratory. Huddled in one corner were 6 Selkaths dressed in plain white lab coats, all of them terrified. And standing beside the table, Dale. So now the adult Dale finally meets the adult Lannery. Finally meets the adult Dale.
And it feels so good.
Well, at first she sees Dale and Lannery, he said. His surprise was evident in his eyes and the way he threw up his hands. And as he grinned, she was a teenager again, seeing her brother and reveling in his presence. A flush of emotion swept through her, pleasure and sadness, loss and love. He came forward as if delighted to her being there, and for a moment, Lannery was consumed by memory, and that was the only moment her lost brother required. Tree screamed, and something struck Lannery's head. As she saw the floor rising to meet her, darkness swallowed her. So,
Hi, sis.
Hi, sis.
Wrong.
Which is pretty, messed up to have faked your death and you see your sister, and to pretend, oh, this is so happy we're seeing each other again, and just to use that as a ruse to clock her out, So that's our introduction to adult Dale. We're going to find out more of him here in a second.
I got to say, I don't know about just the way it was written, kind of Tree screamed. It's got this like girly, like Ned Flanders scream for some reason in my head.
I think the idea was him screaming to warn her. So maybe he was screaming like "look out" or something. I don't know.
I think maybe shouted would have been a better word. Scream just has a kind of a.
But it's interesting that this room, these Selkath scientists are all standing behind beside the table, terrified. And we find out in the next chapter that these scientists are not his stargazers. They're basically been forced labor there, by him. So,
forced labor and expendable.
Yeah. Chapter 13 then, and this is kind of a cool tension builder. We just ended chapter 12 with her finally seeing her adult brother. We've been waiting for this moment the whole book.
Just real quick, I like the quote that begins this chapter about alchemy. Because I have a feeling that's coming in later again.
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, we'll read the epigraph here in a second. But then chapter 13 opens with with a flashback again. So we got to wait a little bit to find out what happens, with adult Lannery and adult Dale. But yeah, do you want to read the epigraph that you like?
Oh, alchemy should have no part in a Jedi experience. It is a dark force, arcane and dangerous. It has the power to upset balance. There are other ways. Temple Master Vordana.
And of course, alchemy is what Master Dan Powell has taught Lannery to do in her mysterious.
Larry's got her little homunculus thing, whatever, going on in a bucket.
Yeah. So we're in the flashback again. We're talking about their first few days at the temple, what's going on. We get more of a description of the temple. And then at one point, Lannery says that she wants to go out. They get a break in between the training or the classes. Lannery says she wants to go out to see the chasm. And Dale's like, oh, it's nothing. I've been there every day since we got here.
But he's really enjoying that everybody is sick.
Yeah. Yeah, he's enjoying the fact because he's not sick because he doesn't have the force.
It's not messing with him.
Yeah. But I want to read this when she, like, what the chasm does to her. This she goes out. It's just pouring down, raining, so she's going to be soaked. She makes a quick decision, steps outside, pulling the door closed behind her. Above her arcs one of the three great curving arms of the temple. They act both as counterbalances to the legs and also as transmitters and receivers, gathering atmospheric charge to fuel Anil Kesh's experiments and sending out messages from the temple masters to other Jedi across Tython and beyond. Its mass shelters her somewhat from the storms, but she can still look down. She walks to the edge of the wide viewing platform and grips the railing. She feels the weight of Anil Kesh behind her, and the protective arms seem to hold her within their shadowy grasp. The temple feels on the breath of the chasm. Its sturdy legs absorb every subtle impact of the wind. You always move seeking to draw my eyes, she says in a line from a love poem she once read in an old paperback of her mother's. The wonders whether the poet had ever visited this place. Looks down and wonders whether all Jedi are in love with the chasm, which is really interesting. It's mystery. It's the depth and infinity on the surface of this world they deign to call their home. Its breath is warm and loaded, and deeper down through the midst of torrential rain, she can see the frequent flash of force lightning erupting in the darkness and illuminating nothing. It is dizzying and thrilling, terrifying and wonderful. She grips the railing so hard that her fingers hurt and her knuckles turn white, not sure she can ever let go. There is a brief, ecstatic moment when she is tempted to lift herself over the railing and fall. It will end in death, but she will also go to see the chasm's depth, to know its secrets. It cannot be bottomless. The only way say that because no Jedi has ever reached the bottom and lived. Or none have gone down there and returned, she whispers, the words immediately stolen by the wind. She's drenched through the rain. The storm whips the curtain. What I love about this, again, her being so drawn to mystery, and in some degree, all the Jedi are about the chasm there. It's kind of like a young girl, she says, are all Jedi in love with the chasm? It's kind of like a young girl falling for the bad boy. I mean, it's the same kind of principle, I think. This is the darkness that I'm supposed to cold and control, but it's so overwhelming and it's so interesting and it's so mysterious, you know. So, and as the narrative and as Dale has already identified with the chasm, you know, this is a common trait we see in Lannery's personality. She's drawn to the unknown. She needs to find out. She needs to learn. You know, even fantasizes about throwing herself in the chasm because then at least she'd know what's at the bottom. You know.
And that's where she first meets Dan Powell.
Yeah, and Dan Powell grabs her and says, "We need to talk." And they have their first into the night meeting, presumably that's going to lead at some point to the alchemy topic. So. All right, then we're back in the present now, and we finish with Lannery coming to consciousness because, you know, Dale had knocked her out pretty much. She comes to consciousness. She's tied up. Trees on the other side, still unconscious. And she sees Dale, and the first thing Dale says to her is, "I told you never to get in my way." You know, which just goes back to what you just read a little while ago.
Mm-hmm.
And they have this talk. And he says, "I knew you were on to me here. I'm surprised they actually sent you, though." She says, "You've grown up." And they're talking a little bit, and she's trying to kind of play it cool, trying to pretend that she's helpless for the moment. Everything that Dale was now resided in his mad, glittering eyes. Another thud. She felt it through her behind rather than heard it. Dale glanced up at the ceiling. "I've grown in every way," he said. "See. Feel." He's asking her to probe him with the force. "No, I don't want to, but I'm telling you to," he screamed. Lannery winced as his voice seared into her head, driving spikes of pain into her eyeballs. Perhaps she'd fractured her skull. She tried to feel, to sense, as they taught her in Marrakesh, when she finished her great journey without her brother. But she was confused. The force flowed through her, but it seemed to stutter. She could not examine herself, so instead she delved toward Dale's mind and withdrew just as quickly. He grinned, nodding slowly. "You see?" he asked. "You feel?" Lannery nodded, the tides of pain washing through her. She sensed nothing at all of the force within him. No light, no dark, no Ashlaw, no Bogan. But he bore an incredible strength that she had only just started to recognize 9 years before. It had grown into something solid. She could only call it madness. And they talk back and forth, and he's still kind of, you know, doing his, you know, he hasn't changed really much at all in terms of his philosophies and wanting to be without it. Were you going to say something, or?
No, I was just agreeing. I mean, he's still,
yeah,
like I said, it's been his plan the whole time.
He does say, interestingly, so we find out that at the Stave Cache, they thought he had died in the chasm. They thought he had gone over. They thought he had died in the chasm, and she says, "Not many people are completely without your force, eh, Lannery?" he says to her. And she said, "Not many people want to be." And he said, "That's why you didn't find me," Dale said, "down there in that dark old place, because you were looking the wrong way. You were searching as if I'd something that fled, not found something and set off my own path. You were looking for a wounded, dying animal, not a man I've become," you know, which is a good line. But then he asked these Selkath, there's still this mysterious device, remember, on the table, and it's covered in, you know, this cloth. And he asked them, "Is it ready? Does it do everything I wanted it to?" You know? And they say, you know, "Yes, look, we relish this, you know, work. You know, not everybody could, you know, it can't be everything you wanted because, you know, that couldn't even be possible, but it does everything just about, you know." And then he pretty much just gives a nod, and suddenly the stargazers around him just slaughter these poor Selkath. Just kill them all, cold blood right there. And he tells her, he said, he's actually took her sword from her, and he's started a fight like on a other part of the planet, so no one will they'll be distracted, not getting in his way so much. But it's made it to look like the Jedi are involved, and the Jedi are, you know, by using her sword. So that's, you know, more problematic for her. But he tells her he can't bring himself to kill her. He says even something to the effect of, you know, "I should kill you, but I can't quite bring myself to do that." So he leaves her there with, you know, tied up there. And then, let's see, I'm trying to find the exact order of it. He leaves her there with this guard, this Cathar. and they're having a talk, and the Cathar says some interesting things. Lannery twitched her finger, took flipped the wild table, clanging against the wall. The Stargazer didn't even blink. He doesn't want to hear you die, the Cathar said. That's kind of my brother. He is kind, the only kind man I've ever met. Lannery glanced at the huddled, bloody bodies in the corner. They were unkind, the Cathar said. They hid down here instead of looking to the stars. So you get, these people are totally, it's a cult. It's a religious cult.
Yeah. Right? Yeah, they might as well be wearing Nikes and those little jumpsuits like those guys were.
Yeah.
Waiting for the UFO to come and take them away.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So she hears Tree, he's coming to. She ducked down, force punches, shoving the Cathar back against the wall beside the door. His blaster fired the shot, smashing the hole in the ceiling. Molten material and rock fragments showered down. Then the Stargazer clasped at his belt, weeping blood from ruptured eyes, and a look of ecstasy broke across his face. Oh no, Lannery muttered. She looked at it. Tree saw that was barely conscious, and with every shred of strength and effort he had of the Force, she reached for him and dragged him halfway across the room toward her. His eyes opened comically wide at the slid behind out and touched her. Reached her and clasped his clothing. Lannery shouted, "Bomb!" And then the explosion goes off. So they survived this explosion. It's sort of like a suicide bomb, kind of like the Nogri before.
I like that little imagery they used. She felt herself thrown around like a snowflake in a storm.
Yeah.
They were always on the brink of getting bombed. Mm-hmm. This is the second bomb that's gone off.
Well, and that shows you too. I mean, that's the MO of the Stargazers. They do not care about collateral damage. And it stems from Dale, who's ultimately a sociopath. Mm-hmm. As much as you can kind of sympathize and empathize with his desire to be his own man, he doesn't give a crap about anybody else around him, And that's the danger when you decide you're going to reject everything and anything of your upbringing or society, in his case, the Force or whatever. When you decide you're done with it all, clean slate, then what's to make you give a crap about anybody else around you? You are your own man, and you're the only man that matters in the world suddenly, and that's like sociopathic evil at that point, So, we jump back into a flashback a bit, and her and Dan Powell are still talking about the chasm and the weapons. We're getting a little closer to the alchemy topic there. Then we get back to the and you again, you stop me if you want me to slow down or catch anything that I'm covering that I'm missing. But we're at the end of the chapter. We get Lannery and Tree trying to find their way out of there. They're free. They survived the explosion. They're looking for places. Dale is on his way. He's got some sort of head start. Not much of one, as Lannery says.
But can you imagine you've just been bombed, you're bleeding, you're sore,
cracked in the skull first before that and everything.
Cracked in the skull, and you have to walk through shack again.
Yeah. Laid to rest in a bath of shack, Tree said. Well, I guess I had it coming. It was a journey through a nightmare. Flowing sewage, crumbling walls, 3 security grills, and Lannery had to force shove open before they could continue. And what made it worse was the uncertainty that they were even moving toward. The farther they went, the louder the noises of battle, but they had little choice. So that battle that, Dale had set off with the, using her sword, as a sort of a red herring and whatnot. So they're on their way. At last, they reached a heavy set of blast doors. Lannery used the Force to fry their controls. Tree found a heavy iron bar to pry them open. Heat and noise flooded in, the stenches and sounds of chaos, and Lannery stumbled through onto a wide balcony several stories above the ground. They had emerged just above the base of a central tower, overlooking Greenwood Station's western side. The sounds, sights, and chaos of war were almost overwhelming. They were confronted with a scene that took their breath away. And that's the end of the chapter. Dun, dun, dun. And that's it. So those are our chapters for tonight, which is a really good, you get quite a bit in that. You do. And I had mentioned in last week's chapters that there was a space there where I felt the pace was lagging a little bit. We're getting a little too much time for description, and let's move it along now, you know. But it wasn't terribly long, and then we get into this good, you know, pacing flow. So it's you know, it's overall it's well done. But just that one little place that I felt lagged a bit. I'm trying to see how many pages we should read for next time. I think probably just, well, it's not much. One of these weeks, we've got like 2 or 3 weeks left. And if we're going to do 3 chapters each, but one of them we have to read a little bit, one extra. I'm trying to see if that should be next week or not. Yeah, I think we'll go 3 through 16 next time. We'll
16.
Yeah. So that'll be that. Let me, you know, we've been chatting here, and Al, if you have anything you want to elucidate on or bring up, you know, or expound on from the study, feel free. But I'm going to check in with the chat because I did see several people tagging me occasionally.
No, at this point, I'm still kind of wondering who I'm rooting for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
because you have to, like I said, you kind of see where Dale's coming from.
Mm-hmm.
It almost feels like he's been trapped, and he's trying to escape this hellhole, as far as he's concerned, that he's in a place where it's all about force, and he doesn't want anything with it, so he just wants to go home, the real home.
Yeah. Find out what's out there, which is it's an interesting, curious thought too, because if you've got to know there's a place in the galaxy or in the universe where everybody around you isn't all force using all the time, you know,
right?
And where did you come from? Where did your speed, knowing that your ancestors were brought from somewhere else, you know, some mysterious place. So,
because it made it sound, it was almost like they were rounded up because they were force sensitive.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, that could be kind of, I don't know. Are you being almost like, are you cattle being bred by whoever?
Yeah. What's the Thoyor? What's behind it? Yeah. And we don't find that out right now. So yeah. It's mysterious. Nathaniel Losball said the description of this chasm makes it feel like they are inside the maw of a beast so large the human mind can't comprehend. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. It's a really fascinating setup, and the chasm is kind of alive because it comes from its own, you know, its own. It's alive with energy, you know.
I think Eldritch fans saying Danny DeVito as Max Hagen.
Oh yeah. I don't know. Danny DeVito doesn't strike me as filthy. Like I guess like in Penguin mode or something like that. Maybe. Yeah, I guess so. He could play it. But yeah, welcome to AL, Darth Enigma, Slav, Anakin Solo. A lot of people came in here while we were chatting away. Darth Enigma says Cathar in Star Wars are the Ferasa in Star Trek. What's up with sci-fi and cat people? You know, it is one of those science fiction tropes that just shows up over and over again. And I don't think it's because they're lazy or copying each other as much as I think it's just we're kind of fascinated with what humanoid beasts would be like, you know. And every alien race of every science fiction franchise, it's impossible to create something, even imagination wise, completely alien if you don't have at least some link to humanity. Then the readers don't care about it, you know. So even like a non-carbon based life form or something, you still got to give it somehow, you know, a human touch or whatever. What was Norm Macdonald's character in that you love so much?
Oh, I can't think of his name, but he was like
the gelatinous character.
No, it was jelly.
Yeah, but he was still Norm Macdonald, you know. So you could relate.
Yeah. I can't get Yablo out of my head, but that's not right.
Something like that, but yeah.
Yeah, it's something like that.
Yeah. So yeah, the next 3 chapters for next week. I've got most likely we'll be doing the live stream next week. I didn't do it last week. Things were too busy, and I kind of said, you know, it's a possibility it might not get done.
Yaphet.
That's right. Yaphet. Thank you. So, but I think I'd like to do a live stream tomorrow because I'd like to say some more things about that. My Ahsoka video, my Filoni and the Mary Sue's video, that lit the heck up, man. That's people are interested in that stuff now. So, yeah, we'll see if I can do something tomorrow. But what's going on with you this weekend and tomorrow and stuff?
Well, tomorrow I will be on Netters Network. We're going to be watching the absolutely fabulous Stallone film Cobra.
I've never seen that.
Yeah, it's a fun film. But yeah, we're going to be watching that, and then next week my rewatch is Maximum Overdrive.
That's right. Yeah. Green Goblin truck.
And of course, and there's a big one coming 2 weeks after that.
What's that?
Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Oh, that's gonna be. You got the Halloween or not Halloween?
Astounding.
Time is fleeting. Yeah, it's on my Halloween playlist.
Yeah, I got that, and then the Captain Kurnos, the vampire hunter, is the one closest to Halloween.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, so good stuff coming up there. That's really much all I've got tonight. Again, these book studies are kind of short. Alyssa's still in her little violin concert with Sound Engraver over there, so I don't know when they're gonna bring back.
That was nice.
Yeah. So, but when they do, I'll need to start getting her ready for bed. So I should probably go ahead and wrap up the stream here.
Yep.
But any other closing words from you?
No, just had a lot of fun. Really enjoying the book, and if you guys, check out my channel, Big Al Presents. I dropped a couple of reviews this week. Did my Big Fat Greek Wedding.
Cool.
And forgot what the other one was.
On your own channel.
On my own channel. It was God. Hold on, let me go to it. Now it's driving me crazy. The Nun 2, that was it.
Yeah. Okay, interesting. Yeah, maybe I'll talk about that tomorrow, Slav, in the live stream. My EU collection. I kind of stopped collecting a little bit for a while, but I still get, just because of saving for the wedding and stuff, obviously. But I still get little, deals I find here and there. But you're right, the new Jedi Order books, when you get them in hardcover, they're pretty pricey. They're quite expensive. But I got some good finds. Maybe I'll show some of that off on the stream tomorrow. So yeah. All right. We will be back in November. We're going to finish out this book this September month, but I'm taking October off from the regular book studies because it's the wedding month and everything. But back in November, we'll pick it up the Star Wars EU book studies again. So yeah, we'll see what's going on October.
So we're done this book. When we're done this book, I'm not going to do another one for a bit.
For at least the month of October. I'll still do something October, and you're welcome to come along with me, whatever I do. I don't know what. But it won't be like it won't be like a book that we're following week to week. It'll be more likely like, hey, let's do a Halloween stream about this or something occasionally or something like that,
Do a rewatch.
Yeah, something like that.
Of a certain funny man and fighting a troll.
There you go. Another. I could do another rewatch of Ernest Scared Stupid.
Yeah, make it a yearly thing.
Would love that. She would. That would be great to get her on mic and have her respond.
Yeah, I mean, a couple nights ago, I was on Soundtracks with Birdman doing his yearly anniversary stream. The first time he ever streamed, he did a rewatch of Raiders of the Lost Ark. So every year he does Raiders of the Lost Ark. So we watched it again the other night. And it's a lot of fun.
Cool. Yeah. Sound Engraver, she won't what?
I'm sorry. I forgot some of the stuff I am doing. Next Monday in the afternoon, I'll be with Soundtracks with Birdman. We're going to be watching Tom Hanks' The Terminal, and I've been invited to watch I think Race with the Devil on Wednesday night. It's a horror film.
Okay, cool. So lots of stuff coming out there for Al. You can tune in next week for the next 3 chapters, and Al will continue to interrupt me. And
hey, I wanted to plug myself.
Nope, not touching it.
Hey, you're lucky I don't go on about a certain show.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll be back next week, and both of us will be on our own channels before then. But until next time, keep enjoying and digging deeper into the real, true blue Star Wars stories you love.
Bye.